Hello everyone. Today I'm going to try to fix my Essential Depot red wire cutter, my soap cutter that has 1-inch cuts, and as you can see I'm missing a wire over here. So give me 1 second, I'm going to get started. Just as soon as I pull up the chat over here so I can respond if anyone has any questions. Alright, I have the chat pulled up. So excuse me. Okay, so this wire cutter is a little bit harder to work with compared to the one that has the guitar string tighteners, because if you know how to work a stringed instrument, it's pretty easy, and you just kind of turn the key on it and it tightens and looses your wires, and it's not hard to replace them either. But this one is a little different. So the first thing that you have to do is you have to pop off the little red cap for the 2 wires, because 1 wire is going to loop around and do 2. And I'm not sure what kind of wire it comes with, but since my other one uses a guitar string cutter, I'm just going to use the guitar string. And this is a 0.02. Let me double check the size. But it works for cutting soap, so I'm going to use that. I have 0.22 size that you can find, online or Amazon or a local music shop. So the first thing that I have to do is I have to cut off this end, because I'm not going to be able to thread that through the way this machine is. And I'm going to just do it as close as possible to get as much length as possible so that I just have the wire. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to thread it through these 2 holes so that the loop is back here like the other ones. Okay. Sorry, this little mini tripod goes around, so I'm kind of using my tools to just get it to stay in place. So I have this one and that one. Come on, there we go. Okay, so having it go all the way through so that they're kind of even, I have an even length to work with. And then back here, I want to try to get that like flattened and creased like the other ones, because this is going to come into play later. It's going to be harder to work with if you don't have like a nice bend. So that's pretty good. And when I go through tightening it, it will tighten a little bit more. Okay, so I have that. And then the next thing is, you can see on these other ones that there's 3 of these nuts or bolts or whatever you call them. Nuts. These are the nuts. This is the bolt. There's 3. There's 1, 2, and then 3 goes behind here. So you can see the string goes through it. So we have to thread the wire through these. So I'm going to thread the wire through each of these. At which point it looks like that. Okay, but for now I'm just going to take these wires and kind of just put them all the way to the back, out of the way. And then start to focus on these bolts here. So the way that these work is, this comes out, let me show you. There's like a channel that runs all the way the length of the bolt. So I'm sorry if it's not focusing all the way. I'll hold it for just a second and see if it's going to show you this little channel. So maybe you can see it better like this. And on the other side, the channel is here. So the way that this looks inside is this wire is going to go along the channel and all the way out like that. Okay? So I'm gonna do that on both of them, but I have to do it through the hole here. So you put it through the hole and then through the channel. Oops, my little nuts fell off. So let me grab my nuts. Oops. Okay. Okay, and then back through. See, this one is in there, so put it through the channel, and then let me get this one and put it through the channel. I just took it out to kind of like show you how it's gonna look. So they're gonna go like this. You're gonna pull it out like that, and that's all of that. Just there is the easy part. Okay, because then we want to get it tightened. So the way that you tighten a string, like suppose that you don't need to change the wire, you just need to tighten a wire. These normally, like say this one is actually pretty tight, but this is the one, say it's over this way and it's all the way tightened. So basically, and then this one would be on there all the way up in this one, like the position is. Say that you need to tighten it, you would loosen this one or make this one go left, in a sense stretching this one, and then it would create a space on this one, and then you tighten it up. So you kind of like, you're just shifting it to the left a little bit, and that's how you tighten it, and you can do it on both of them. So it's a little bit more complicated than a guitar string, but hopefully I can manage this. So now what are we gonna do over here? Now, as I said, this one's already kind of tight, but it will move. So I wanna I'm gonna have to get my other wrench though, because I'm gonna have to hold this one while I try to tighten that back up. And I only have one over here, but I just have the other one in the next room. I was just using it, so just give me a second. Sorry about that. Okay. So, and the instructions that you get with this are not super clear. It says basically to use a wrench to tighten or loosen the bolts, and it doesn't really give you much explanation. So that's why I wanted to come and show you this. So what I want to do is, oops, that's the wrong one. I want to try to get this one closer to this edge, because it's going to help when I like kind of anchor that string down, but this one's kind of tight. Oops. So I'm slowly getting it there. And pretty soon I'm going to show you why I'm doing this. Just bear with me. If you have one of these machines and you lose a string, this is very helpful to know. Oops, sorry about that. Let's see. All right. Okay, so I just wanted to get it closer so it's easier for me to tighten this down later. And I want to do this one first because it is so tight, because this one's going to be easier for me to tighten just with my fingers. So having that down there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to like anchor this wire in between these two, and on these ones you can see, let me try to take one off. I was just tightening this one back here, so I know it's going to come off easy for me. You see how tight it is against this one, and you can see the little wire coming out. So it's going to have to look something like that. Okay, mine might not look as clean when I'm done with it because I'm using a different string and it's longer, but basically I want these ones all the way over, and I'm going to use my needle nose pliers now to try to manipulate this wire and tighten it around the nut. I'm going to move the camera just over here a little bit. So, okay. Let's see, so I have that. I kind of made a little bit of bend in the wire, and I'm going to kind of try to hold this one, and I'm just doing like a little tightening motion, just trying to get that one locked in to where I folded it on this other side earlier. So I also want to try to wrap it between this other nut here to try to really anchor it in, because replacing a string on this one is not the easiest thing in the world. It's easier to just tighten it, but if you break a string, you have to replace it. Otherwise, you have this big expensive cutter that's not going to do you any good. So now I'm going to tighten this one down so it really grabs on to that string. Really anchors it down really tight. Oops. Let's see, maybe that's good. Okay, so if I give it a tug, it's not going anywhere. So now I'm going to leave that extra wire coming out for now, and I'm just going to thread this a little bit. Now I'm going to work on the next string. So I'll come back and you'll kind of see my finishing steps, and you'll see that I'll be able to get it as tight as these strings, but let me manipulate this string next. So now this one is going to be a little bit easier for me because I can do this with my fingers and I don't have to use the wrenches as much. I mean, I might have in the end maybe to get a little bit more than finger tight, but okay. So now on this one, just get that on there a little bit. I want to make sure it's pushed in all the way from the back. And again, I'm going to use the needle nose plier to kind of get it tight, make a little bit of a crease and get it tight. It's in that channel that I showed you earlier. So let's see if I can fold that down. Because if you use only your fingers, it might be a little bit harder, because it's gonna wanna get you, and you don't want to fold the wires too many times because then it might break. Okay, so I kind of did it through the channel, I wrapped it around, and now I have to manipulate this thing here to grab this wire while holding the wire very carefully. So hold on, I'm going to hold that and I'm just going to use this. Let me move that one out of the way. This one is also harder to grab because like my plier doesn't fit in there, or my wrench I mean doesn't fit in there as well. But I'm getting it. Hold on. It's kind of hurting my fingers to hold, so I'm going to try to hold this with one. And I'm knocking my camera around, sorry about that. Okay, yikes. Using the mini tripod and it just kind of wants to shift around everywhere. So I'm going to use this wire cutter under that tripod and hold the tripod in place so you can sort of see what I'm doing here. Okay. Okay, so I'm holding this and I'm trying to tighten this one here which is harder to grab. Probably be a little bit easier if you're not using adjustable one, just a regular size, but I'm using what I have. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Okay, so now I have these wires on there, but they're kind of loose, so that needs to be fixed. Hopefully I have that on there well enough, but especially this wire. But you can see if I like stretch it over that way that it's going to be tight enough. So right there it's too loose, over there it's too tight, but I kind of wish that it was in there further. Let's see, let me see if I can just kind of go like this, get that tight, get that tighter. I can cover that with a cap later, but let's see. Okay, good, because now when I move it over it's going to get really tight. Okay, so I was able to just kind of twist this wire a bit, get it a little bit tighter. So you can see they're loose now, but when I pull these over this way, it gets nice and tight. In fact, I can't even really move that one because it's already so tight, but this one I can move over. So this is how we're going to adjust the tension now. And so we finally got the wire on, and now we just have to adjust the tension of the wire, which is a little bit easier. So I'm going to start with this one, and I'm going to move that bolt, or nut, I mean, down. Okay, until this wire, hold on, I'm going to turn it too so the channel is facing up and in the center like the other ones are. And then it seems pretty tight, so I'm going to tighten this down to hold that in place. Okay, and then I'm basically going to do the same to this one, except this one's already pretty tight, so I'm just going to turn it a little bit to tighten it a little bit more. So it should have a little bit of tension to it. So like I was showing you earlier, it's just shifting this slightly to the left here. It's just making a slight shift, and that is making the wire more tight. So then I'm going to tighten this up, and I'll make sure that these are a little bit more than finger tight, and I'll make sure the channel is facing up. So if you see, this one is a little bit more left, this one's a little bit more right, because I just made like a custom tightness, but they're tight enough to cut soap now, and I did this with a guitar string. So the strings that come with it even look a little bit thicker, but since my other cutter uses these guitar strings, I knew that they would be enough to cut soap with. So now the only thing left to do is to clean up this over here. So if you want, you can kind of wrap around some of this wire in case you want to come in and try to mess with it later. Or you can, you know, just cut off your extra, which I'm going to wrap around some, so in case I have to do anything later. But then I'm just going to try to cap this under the cap. And you'll notice the ones that it came with, there's not a lot of extra wire like this, but I'm just leaving a little bit extra here. So I'll cap that, and then I'll just cut this, oops, sorry, I'll cut this extra, oops, wrong spot, that extra bit, and I still have some wire that came out, but oh well, that's good enough, huh? Alright, so on this one, I kind of tightened it right here, so I want to see if I can maybe smash that down a little bit. And I'm just going to cap this like that. And then I'm going to cut off the extra wire down here. Oh, you know, and I got to turn this one too because, and I got to tighten it right here. Because I want the channel to be up. Because if the channel is like off to the side, it's going to make your wire slightly off. Like off center. Okay, let me cut this excess. Okay, so I do have a couple of wires hanging out. I can trim those, I guess. Having that much extra wasn't working out, but that's fine. Just as long as you're not gonna like hurt yourself. See, maybe I just turn that in. Okay. But the most important part now is that now I have a soap cutter that will cut some soap. So that should work. And hopefully if I try it, I don't know if I have any soap though. Do I have any soap? Let me just find one real quick. We'll cut in half this butterfly just to give it a try. Okay, making sure that we use the new wire. Hold your fingers. This is live, so I can't edit it if it doesn't work. There we go. So we cut the soap. So there we go. Now we have a butterfly in 4 pieces, and it looks like the soap cutter cut through it okay. So that's it. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.